Thanks for tuning in. I'm Joel Amidon.
And I'm Ann Monroe.
Welcome to The Road to Better Teaching, the podcast where we share stories of professional growth from across the field of education. We're back, Ann.
We're back. It seems like it's been a long time.
It has been a long time.
Very long time.
Yeah, we're not as good as scheduling things, but we have someone on the schedule.
We do.
Very honored guest on the schedule. We're excited to welcome Dr. Brandi De La Cruz, who is the Tennessee Teacher of the Year for what, 2025, 2026?
Correct, yeah.
Is that what they say?
Yeah, officially the 2026 cohort, but 2025, 2026, yes.
And maybe potentially the
national. That's the goal, Joel.
That's
the
what
goal.
we're going for.
Congratulations.
Can you campaign?
Yes.
Because the campaign starts now.
It starts right now.
Starts now. Here we go.
I will take all the funds, all the donations.
Yeah.
So before we dive into the countdown, could you introduce yourself, Brandi, and tell our listeners who you are and a little bit about your work and what you're doing in education right now?
Well, first, thank you for letting me come to this podcast. I've listened to it a few times. It has been a while, let me be honest.
Yeah.
You know, so glad to be back.
In Guyton Hall, yeah.
Yes.
I am, as they said, Dr. Brandi De La Cruz. I actually graduated here from the University of Mississippi in 2022. I teach currently at Collierville High School in Memphis, Tennessee. And as you said, I was named the 2025-2026 Tennessee Teacher of the Year, which was a great honor and a great surprise, if I'm being honest, because you work so hard in education and you don't get all the affirmation that you want or think you deserve. And this was like the turning point, and it's very exciting. And I want to represent the state as well as I can, because teaching was not my initial career. My undergraduate was in business administration.
Oh, wow.
I wanted to be Martha Stewart. She was my role model.
Me too.
Right? I wanted her money. I wanted her power. I wanted her fearlessness, her innovation. So I went to get a business degree because that was my goal. I wanted to be Martha Stewart. And then after I graduated and I got into the real world, I realized it was brutal. It was mean. And the only job I could get was manager of finish line at the local mall. Mm-hmm. And after working there for 3 or 4 months, I was like, this is not for me. I don't want to do this anymore. It was hard, and I wasn't passionate about it. It wasn't fun. Yeah. And one day a teacher walked in. Her name was Susie Cox from Central High School in Little Rock, Arkansas. And she said, she was on the phone. She said, we need a math teacher. Our math teacher just quit. We need a math teacher. And I walked up to her. I don't know why I was so brazen that day. I walked up to her and I said, I'd like to try for that job. Let me try that. And she said, do you have a math degree? And I said, no, ma'am. I have a college degree, though. She said, you're in. Done. I interviewed.
Wow.
I interviewed the next day at Central High School in Little Rock at Pulaski County School District. I interviewed the next day. They hired me as an interim long-term sub for the rest of the year. Uh-huh. I enrolled at University of Arkansas Little Rock, got my MAT degree in teaching, and I haven't looked back. It was the best decision of my life. I love teaching. I love everything about it. I'm passionate about it, and I'm just grateful that she walked into my store that day.
Yeah. What year was that, Brandi?
2026.
Wow.
2006. Yeah, I'm not that young. Yeah. 2006. 2006.
That's amazing.
And then, so you taught there, and then what led to being at Collierville, and also, too, what led to coming back to the University of Mississippi to get your PhD?
So obviously I had to get a master's to become a teacher, because you have to have a degree in education to take the praxis. Yeah. I got that from Euler. I started teaching at Central High School, so I was there for the Little Rock 9 when the 50th anniversary was there. I met Bill and Hillary Clinton. I was only 23 at the time, so that was a huge moment in my life. And then I transferred to Fuller Middle School and also in Little Rock, and I did middle school for 3 years and realized that wasn't really my passion either. I loved the high school. And my husband got a job in Memphis. Okay. And we moved from Little Rock to Memphis. And I worked for 3 years at Southwind High School, which is in Memphis, Tennessee. And one day I went home to Houston, Texas, where I'm from. And I was talking to my family, and they're like, what are you doing with your life? You don't have kids. You're married. What are you doing? And I was like, I'm teaching. They're like, don't you want to, like, they kind of pushed me. Like, that's it? Because I'm the only teacher. I'm the only college graduate.
Oh, wow.
In my family. And so they're like, that's it? You're just teaching? Okay. And I was like, let me show them what I could do. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like a dare I took. Let me show them. And so on a whim, I applied for the PhD program here at Ole Miss. I remember interviewing with Dr. Bellman. He looked at me and he said, do you think you're ready for this? And me being cocky, I'm like, yes, sir, I am. I wasn't. I'll be honest, I wasn't. It was 6 long years to get this degree. COVID happened during my dissertation that added an extra year to it. But I will never regret coming here. This program made me who I am. It changed the way I think. It changed the way I research. It changed the way I teach. So I'm very grateful for Ole Miss and everything I endured and went through in my 6 years here.
Yeah,
that's great. Now you taught for us as well.
Yes,
because I believe you and I taught
yes,
one
ma'am,
of
we
our
did.
foundations courses together.
I was a TA for 3 years because I had to take so many math classes here. I had to take graduate math classes, and they're only offered during the day. So I actually had to stop teaching at Southwind to come here and be a TA for 3 years.
Well, kind of talk, just out of curiosity, what was teaching at the university? How did that help, or how did that connect to your teaching in K-12?
So it was definitely a different population. You know, the kids here want to be here. They're paying to be here. In K-12, they have to be there. And math is usually not a favorite subject. You know, you're really, with some of these kids, you're dealing with a fixed mindset of, I don't like math. Math is not for me. My mom hated math, so I have to hate math. But here, the kids wanted to learn it. They wanted to be here. So it was using a totally different part of my brain to like, they want to be here. How do I make this extra exciting for them? How do I make this extra enticing for them? How do I relate my real life experiences to what they're going through or what they're potentially about to go through?
Right.
Because social media these days, you see all these teachers on TikTok or Facebook or Instagram saying, oh, I taught for 2 years and I dropped out. It wasn't for me. So my perception was, what can I get them to do to say, stick with it?
Right.
The first 2 or 3 years are hard.
Yeah.
Let me prepare you for the hard, but after the hard, it's going to get great.
Yeah.
You know, so let me get you ready for the great.
Yeah. It's almost like you ran most of the half marathon and then like you dropped that. Like, I think that third year, I don't know about you, Dr. Monroe, but
absolutely,
that third year was like, oh wow. Okay. I got my legs under me.
Yes.
You hit that kind of like, oh, now I'm, focusing on I'm not more concerned about, did all the lesson plans and do I have the copies and all that stuff. And like, I'm more like, you can be more in the moment and like you're building those relationships.
Well, there's so many things that you learn in the first 2 years that some of the things that you're learning, you realize you're learning it. And some of the things you don't even realize that you're picking up. It's almost like learning by osmosis. Yes. And then you hit that third year and it's like magic. And
all the connections happen,
and some of them you're aware of, and some of them you don't know why it's so much better, but it is so much better.
Yeah.
And so at my school, Collierville High School, I started a morale committee because we are the largest high school in the state of Tennessee. We have over 180 teachers on staff. Wow. So you can walk the halls and not recognize one of your own coworkers because we're so large, And so I started the morale committee because I wanted to make those connections for new teachers specifically. I could not imagine being a first-year teacher out of college and walking into our school and having 180 coworkers and not knowing them all, not knowing who to go to, not knowing who you can vent to or who you can ask for resources or who you can ask for help. So I started the morale committee so we could come together as a group inside and outside of school to collaborate, commiserate, vent, and just be each other's rock. Because in education, that's the key. You have to have your people. You have to have your rocks so you stay in the game. You stay in the trenches and you don't want to quit.
Yeah, I don't know how I would survive without the teachers that I worked with during my first few years in teaching. Also, I just shared an article with Dr. Amadon 2 days ago. There's a researcher here at the University of Mississippi that's looking at co-workers and their relationships, and specifically venting, I think was the topic. But obviously there's a little bit of that, but there's lots of other things that go on. But the importance of having those connections in the workplace and having people to lean on that are going through the same thing that you're going through, and being able to work through things together, and morale is huge. I mean, it's massively important, and we know that when teachers leave the profession, the reasons you think that they're leaving are not actually the real reasons. It's not the money, it's not the kids, it's other things. It's morale.
Yes.
And so that's super, super important, having those coworkers that you can lean on and talk with and share and support.
And to speak on that, you go home to your spouse, and if they're not in education, they have
don't
no
know.
idea.
They don't know.
My husband all the time was like, teaching should be pretty easy, right? It's math. 2 + 2 is 4. 5 + 5 is 10. Done. And I'm like, you have no idea.
Yes.
Like testing and ACT scores and LOE scores. It's all things that they evaluate
somebody
us
broke
on.
up.
And they're crying in
And there was a
class.
pep rally.
Yeah, the pep rally, the homecoming week, and he's like, they don't understand. So you need teachers, you need people in education who are in the trenches with you,
Absolutely,
to lean on.
Yeah. I was gonna say, Dr. Monroe, like, I thought you were saying, I found my. We always say we have the duo, right?
Yes,
the duo.
yes. You have to find your people where you are,
like,
and
just being able to do work and like those, the person that challenged you a little bit to make you do a little better, and like why we're doing this podcast and other things.
I love that.
But yeah, or I was gonna sing Drew Holcomb and the Neighbors. You gotta find your people,
Oh yes, sing it, Joel.
No, I'm gonna say
really
don't sing
want
it.
to,
Don't sing it.
Yeah. Anything, and just if there's another connection, is anything outside of education that about something about yourself that might be fun to share, just to that you like to do, or something about you?
So, before I started the PhD program here, I actually had a dog rescue in Memphis called Mutt Mafia. Yes, and so dogs are my second passion outside of education. And so we would take dogs from the overcrowded Memphis shelters and DeSoto County shelters, and we would actually drive them to New York and New Jersey where shelters are empty and get them adopted up there super quick, because they were in need of dogs. They actually have dog laws and animal cruelty laws and spay and neuter laws that we don't have down here. And I would spend my weekends in a cargo van with crate upon crate upon crate, driving them to New Jersey, New York. I was actually in New York dropping off a van of dogs March 2020 when COVID happened and they shut the world down. It was torture getting back. It was torture. It was snowing in New York City. I wanted to go to Central Park and play. Nope. Everything was blocked. I was trying to get these dogs to people who were afraid to look at me, because everybody was scared. And so that lasted 3.5 years. We saved over 1,100 dogs.
Wow, that's amazing.
And then it just got too sad and too hard, and I just felt like I was spinning my wheels. And then I started this program. So it's one thing then another. Just stay busy, stay relevant.
Well, that's cool.
Keep doing what you're passionate about.
Well, we do this. Thank you for sharing that. This interview countdown. So where we start with, for you, so we do 3, 2, 1. We're going to name 3 teachers who shaped you as a person.
So I've been teaching for 16 years plus 3 years as a TA. So that's a lot of years to think back on and who influenced me. I could go back to high school and pick a high school teacher. If you find any of my high school teachers, I'm friends with a couple of them on Facebook. When they saw us Teacher of the Year, I think a couple of them had heart attacks because they didn't even think I would be a teacher. That was not a possibility for me. I was not the best student. I was a softball player. I was an athlete. I had a full scholarship to play softball in college. I was not academically focused. And so they were all shocked when I became a teacher, more so when I won. So those teachers, they influenced me, maybe not in the best way, but I remember them for still pushing me. Even though I wasn't academically inclined, they still pushed me and believed in me every day. When I became a teacher, I started at Central High School, like I mentioned, and then I went to the middle school realm for 3 years, which I've learned my lesson. Maybe that's not what I'm best at, so I'm in the high school area now. But I taught with a woman named Lori Stevens, who was very religious, very morally motivated, but very straight-laced. She would tell me, you're deviating from your path. Your path is to be a teacher. You need to focus on the kids. You're here for the kids. You love the kids. Don't let all the other nonsense of teaching interfere with this. Because when you're in the classroom, you hear from the parents, you hear from the city, you hear from the community. Everybody's in your ear about what you should do. And she just told me, follow your heart. You know what to do. You're a teacher at heart. Do what you need to do. Ignore the noise.
Yeah. She had a compass, and she's helping you find your
exactly.
compass.
She was a lot more experienced than I was. And she really, to this day, whenever I'm stressed about parents emailing me because their kids made an F on a test, or when your administration is down your neck because of something, I just think, I'm here to teach. I love teaching. My goal is the kids. I'm here for these children. I'm ignoring the noise. I'm focusing on them. So I'm very grateful to her for showing me the path and to stay on that path. When I came to Memphis, I worked at Southwind High School for 3 years, and I worked with a man, Chris Maley. He is now the chief academic officer of Bartlett City School, so he's moved up a lot in his career. But he was just a math teacher with me at the time, and he's the one who told me, math could be fun. Let's make math fun. kids should leave your room happier than they left it.
Oh.
And so they walk into your room with that fixed mindset I talked about with my mama didn't like it, my grandmama didn't like it, I don't like it. If you can change that, if they're at a 0, just change it to a 2.
Yeah.
You still did it. You still showed growth.
Move forward. Yeah.
Move forward. He showed me that every kid can move forward in your room if you're passionate and you promote it the right way. And so with him and his guidance and his leadership, I really saw, I don't care if a kid was at an 8, I was getting him to a 10. If he was at a 0, I was getting him to a 2. My goal in education is when you walk into my room, I will grow you. I will get you a little bit more excited about math, a little bit more in love with math than you came to my room.
Nice.
And I thank Dr. Maley for that.
That's great.
And then last, I have to give it to Dr. Bellman here at Ole Miss.
Yeah.
6 years I was here. He very easily could have said, no, the limit's 3. You're done, babe, or, 6. Are you serious? Like, that's a long time. But he was so understanding. He showed a lot of grace with me because I was going through hard times when I was here. COVID happened and life happens, and he never gave up on me. He promoted me to speak at national and regional conferences, things that I was not comfortable with. He made me comfortable. He didn't give me an option. He said, you're doing it.
That's great.
And so
would you want it? No.
Exactly. He signed me up anyways.
Yeah.
He made me publish.
Yeah.
He made me teach. He made me do things that was so out of my comfort zone. But when I was done, I was a better teacher. I was a better person. I was a better student. So I have to thank him for really finishing the molding process on me. He really wrapped it in a bow and set me out in the world better than when I came in.
That's great.
Yeah. What about 2 reasons or events that led you to become a teacher besides the finish line story?
I mean, why does anybody else become a teacher? Obviously the money, I know the big salary was attached to this job. Like I said before, didn't come into this traditionally. I was a business major. When I started at Central High School, I was there for the 50th, like I said, and their school is huge. It's 5 stories. If you've never been to Central High School in Little Rock, it's beautiful. One of the prettiest schools you've ever been at. But as an interim teacher, I was a floater. They did blocks, so I floated. I was on the 5th floor one period.
You floated up and down the building?
Yes, I did. I was in the trailer. They had trailers outside campus. I was in a trailer for one period, had off the period. In the 5th, I was back on the 4th floor.
Oh, my gosh.
So I
Not
was
even a cart teacher. You couldn't be a cart. Through the parking lot.
It was crazy because I was in a trailer, and we're in inner city Little Rock, and there's barbed wire around us. So it was a real, do you really want to do this kind of thing? But that year made me realize, yes, this is what I want to do, because I was a long-term sub. I wasn't getting paid anything to do that job. I was floating. I was teaching geometry, which is a state-tested subject.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I was 22 teaching 19-year-olds.
Is this while you were working on your MAT?
Yes, ma'am.
Wow.
It sure was. Recently married. All the things were being thrown at me at once, and I'm trying to juggle all the balls while trying to be as effective as I can. And I remember after that first year, they were trying to decide if they wanted to hire me because I had passed the praxis. I was a real teacher. So they could decide, do we want to hire you or not? And their principal looked at me and she goes, your test scores were phenomenal. We have to hire you back. And I was like, there's a test? There's a state test? I had no idea. Because I'm business world. They don't tell you to teach to the test. I was given a book and I was told, teach the book. Yeah. I was given no resources. I was given no copies. I taught to the book. And at the end of the year, they took the test. June, the scores came back. My principal called me, said, we want to rehire you. Your scores were phenomenal. And that was like my light bulb moment. Like, if I just teach the way I want to teach and don't care about the test, it just happens.
The pressure is off.
There was no pressure on me.
Yeah.
And I was like, the next year there was, because I got to beat what I did. Yeah. The pressure's on. They're all looking at me. So that was the first moment when I was like, if I just do me, just do Brandi, things happen. Yeah. This was what I was supposed to do. I wasn't supposed to sell tennis shoes. I was supposed to teach. So that was really the first moment for me. Awesome. The second moment, 2 reasons I became a teacher. The second was probably when I went to Memphis. I came to Memphis, worked at Southwind, and I was going to get deep here. We had to have a lockdown one day. One of the students brought a gun, and they caught it as soon as they walked in. We didn't have metal detectors then. We had nothing. He pulled it out. He pulled it out and threatened to kill a kid. And they locked us down for 9 hours that day. We were not allowed to leave the room. SWAT came in. The feds came in. It was terrifying as a teacher. But I realized I would stand in front of the door for these kids. I would put my life at risk for these kids. And these are teenagers. These are 16 and 17-year-olds. And I was not a mom at the time, but I was a mother to them. So when they were in the corner crying because we're on lockdown and you hear the helicopter swatting, you hear the dogs barking because they're walking the halls sniffing for drugs and guns, and you have kids crying. And I'm like, this is why I'm here. This is why I'm on this earth. This is why God put me here, because I'm for these kids. I am here for these kids. If something happens, I will put myself in front of them. And I know it has nothing to do with teaching, but it's like the love of the game. You know, the love and the passion for teaching it's more than just the books. It's more than just 5 + 5 is 10. To be a teacher, you have to do every aspect of that, and that's to love your kids. And at that moment, I realized I love these kids, and I will do whatever it takes to protect them inside or outside of this classroom.
Before we get to the number one on the countdown, let me ask the two things that you mentioned about the reasons, the events that led you to become a teacher. With your alternate route background and you saying that, you had no idea you were going to be a teacher, what would you say to people that are getting ready to graduate from college with some other degree, biology, business like you, or, an English degree, but in the back of their mind, they kind of always thought they'd really like to teach, but they were maybe steered away from that from a parent or maybe even a teacher. We've heard of stories a lot where teachers...
Or TikTok or social
something.
media. Yeah.
What would you say, just quickly, what would you say to someone that's getting ready to graduate that with some other degree that kind of has this inkling they might like to teach?
Try it. Every school that I know of needs teachers, whether it's in art, music, math, especially math, science, special education. Try it. What does it hurt? Mm-hmm. What does it hurt to just go in for a year or two? You have your backup degree, right? You have your business degree, your liberal arts degree, your engineering degree. You have those degrees. Yeah. Try teaching for a year. What if that is your passion and you went this alternate route, like you said, because of pressure, societal pressure, parental pressure? But teaching's really where you're supposed to be. What does it hurt to try it for 1 year, 2 years? Just try it.
And there's so many pathways now that have opened up for people to do an alternate way to get a license that it's great opportunity.
Yes, and it's not expensive.
And it's
there
great opportunity.
Really aren't. I mean, the praxis test, pass that, and you're in for every state, regardless of where you are.
Yeah. No, that's great. So the number one, we want to talk about a mile marker on your journey of growing as an educator. So, and we think of it as like in your life, you got these moments. We're going to plant a mile marker on a moment that you would pick to represent a moment of growth. All right. So
many moments, though. Yeah. So many moments.
So what would be the moment?
So I'm going to go back to Fuller Middle School in Little Rock. I was my 3rd, 4th, and 5th year teaching there. It was a very diverse school because it was the gifted and talented middle school for the whole Pulaski County School District. Pulaski County School District is very big, like Memphis, Shelby County, and Memphis. Yeah. By comparison, it's a very large school district. So they would bus all their gifted and talented kids to this one school from everywhere in the district. But they also had the low socioeconomic students there too. So in 1 year, I would teach 7th grade geometry, which is traditionally a 10th grade class. Yeah. I would teach 8th grade geometry, and I would teach 7th grade special ed. 8th grade special ed in the exact same school year. Wow. So I would have to pivot, right? If I'm teaching 7th grade algebra 1 period, then 8th grade geometry 1 period, and then special ed 7th grade, special ed 8th grade, and then traditional 7th and 8th grade, you're seeing a lot of diverse students, a lot of different knowledge levels. So that year was hard for me on many levels. How do you reach all the kids? How do I reach the top of the top while still reaching the kids on the spectrum? I had Asperger's. I had a baby with Down syndrome, in a traditional setting. How do you reach that? So the one thing I learned that year is that regardless of how knowledgeable, how adept at math students are, productive struggle gets results. As a teacher, we are so inclined to take the pencil from their hand while they're writing. We are so it's terrible, right? We're all guilty of it.
I'm guilty.
Or we pull up that big pink eraser and start erasing. Try again. I tell my students now, we don't erase in my class. You cross through because you learn from your mistakes.
That's it.
And if you want to use pen, if you want to use pen, use pen. I don't care.
Yes.
I'm okay. Don't use those erasable pens. I don't know why they invented those. That's messy. So I don't erase. We cross through. We don't you learn from your mistakes.
Yes.
And so with my kids at Fuller, even my high ones, I would give them the most advanced stuff, and they would look at me saying, "You're the teacher. Teach us." No, baby. Y'all are capable of this. Let me step back and watch you. And initially they would fight against me. No, you're the teacher. Teach us. And as I stepped back and I said, you will learn this, they did. They collaborated. They used productive mathematical discourse. They talked to each other. They struggled. But eventually they got it. And when they got it, even if it was an hour later, that light bulb moment stayed with them. Because when I teach it to them, sometimes like the next day they forgot what I taught. But if they teach it themselves, oh my goodness, it sticks with them. I use that philosophy. I said, okay, I'm using that in my gifted class. I'm using that with Algebra 1 7th graders and Geometry 7th graders. Let's see if it works in my special education classes. It did. Mm-hmm. They can productive struggle. It doesn't matter what level you're at. Productive struggle, if done in the right hands, can lead to results. So that was my aha moment, is I don't have to hand them everything on a big silver platter.
Yeah.
I can let them work. I can let them cry. I can let them struggle. It's okay. They'll get it, and they'll be all the better for it.
Talk a little bit about, because Joel and I have looked at this. I mean, obviously Joel's in the math world and knows all about productive struggle, but he and I have.
You're kind of in the math world.
Okay,
too.
now. Okay.
Come on now.
I love the math world.
Yeah.
But
we're great people.
talking about productive struggle and how important it is. Talk a little bit about that. Your students' reluctance, I'm sure, stems from the general culture in schools that struggle and failure is not something we want to see, which is such a terrible message, because to learn anything new, you're going to struggle. You're going to fail multiple times before you succeed. The failure isn't really failure. It's just your efforts in trying, which should be celebrated. So talk a little bit about how if a teacher out there wants to embrace this idea of productive struggle, whether it be in mathematics or any other content area, how did you work with those kids to get over their fear, their reluctance to work on something hard and maybe not be great at it the first time? Because it's a shift in what they've known. And it's a shift maybe even in what happened the period before they got to you and the period after when they leave your class and go to someone else's. What type of work do you have to do to get them to a place where they're comfortable doing that?
And honestly, I don't think it stems from the class before, the year before. It stems to motherhood. Like me as a mom, I have a 1-year-old now. He will do something totally stupid, and I want to run to him and grab him. But I'm like, no, he needs to learn that is stupid. Like literally just this morning, he takes a box and he throws it on his foot. And he looks at me and starts crying and pulls up his foot. I'm like, no. So even as a mom, we are so used to running to them and telling them and fixing it for them that when they get to school as teachers, male or female, we do the same thing. They're sitting in front of us writing 5 + 5 is 7, and we take the pen from them and we erase it and say, no, it's 10. Why can't we let them figure it out for themselves that it's 10? Why is it innate in us to do everything for them, to fix everything? And as educators, I think that's going to be the biggest pushback we get, is we want them to achieve. We feel validated if everybody in our room makes 100 on a test. I don't. I feel like I'm too easy. I feel like I made the content too easy. I made the test too easy. That should not be the norm. Hundreds, everybody making A's, that should not be what is acceptable. You need the struggle. You need people every day to walk into your class saying, I want to learn. You are going to teach me. And so with math in particular, because that's my realm, when we do hard things, I like to think about things we did before. I incorporate what did we do in 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade, Algebra 1 that will help you with this skill. I pull in references and I do grouping. I hope more math teachers are doing this. I believe in grouping every single day. No matter if we're lecturing, no matter if we're reviewing, obviously not testing, I'm not that far. But besides that, we are grouping, and I do flexible grouping. So if I give them a task, which I'm very big task-based, if I give them a task or something to do, and I see Joe in group 1 is killing it, oh my gosh, he's doing amazing, but group 3, they're really struggling, I will have Joe come and teach group 3. Right. I'll pull someone from group 3 to switch with Joe, have Joe's group teach that person what Joe said, have Joe reteach, and that way they're handling it. I'm just walking around facilitating, I'm making sure they're on path or on track, and I guide them. As educators, we are taught to be the end all. I'm not. Yeah. I'm a facilitator. Yeah. I am a leader. I try to point them in the right direction, but I don't grab them kicking and screaming to the right direction. It's up to them.
And I think this kind of, what you're saying is reminiscent of a couple of themes that we've had on this podcast that keep coming back. One is teachers and adults in general, they want to control instead of facilitate. They want to control behavior. They want to control outcomes instead of, seeing what happens and giving students space and teaching them how to do things on their own, giving them autonomy. Two, which goes along with that, is patience. And it sort of reflects what you were talking about, yes. Dr. Bellman, having patience with you and that type of thing, the importance of being patient. And that also, what you said about, it goes to parenting too, this idea about patience. When you've got the 2-year-old that's trying to put the toothpaste on their toothbrush, yes. Instead of just, yes, we know we need to get out of the house, instead of grabbing it from them and doing it for them, just take an extra 10 seconds, let them try it.
Yes.
And it's this idea of control and patience. And I think if adults in general, but obviously, like you're saying, it happens in teaching all the time. If we can work as teachers to be just a bit more patient, and then also to not feel like we must control everything about, what the kids are doing, I think it would help, in this idea about productive struggle and those kind of things. And we've had these themes, come up before in different areas.
Well, and two things I want to point out from the math educator, and again, and you're in the math world too. But two things. One, you talk about tasks. Just so the listeners know, that when we're talking about tasks, we're not talking about exercises.
No.
We're not talking about just
25 problems we have to solve. No.
Foiling or, executing an algorithm. We're talking about tasks that have an unknown solution path, a real problem.
Yes.
That they're
with
engaging
multiple
with.
parts that,
right. Yeah. And knowing that, and so I think too, is that also, you talk about hey, they're teaching each other, but you've created the environment
yes.
for this to happen. And that is master teacher level where, I see the production of them talking to each other, because not only is the kid getting something out of it that's saying the words, and the other kid's receiving it because it's a better way, they speak the same language, and you have facilitated all of that happening. And that's a beautiful part in the great article that Dr. Bellman loves is never say anything a kid can say, right? And so knowing that, hey, I've facilitated this interaction between these two students, and now they both have better understanding of this concept, and I put them together in order to make that happen as and that's upper level stuff, right? And so I wanted to point that out, because I just love everything I'm hearing about that idea of we want our kids to make sense of problems and persevere in solving them. Our number one standard for math. That's what every parent wants their kid to be able to do that. And so that the fact that you were doing that in math class and facilitating that is great.
And when a kid ever asks me, when do we going to need this in real life? That's the answer I give. I'm like, you might not need quadratic formula in your career. You might not need to know what a parabola looks like, or a linear equation, or even a derivative if you make it to calculus. But the skills I taught you in my class about how to productive struggle, how to collaborate, how to have a conversation with someone you may or may not like and have results, that will follow you. Regardless of your career, the productive struggle, the way that you have learned more about yourself in this class and how you could overcome any challenge, that will come with you. That will follow you. And they always come back and they say, you're right. I learned I could do hard. Hard was not that hard because you gave me the skills and the confidence. Yeah. And I wanted to say one thing on what you said. It is hard for teachers to step back and allow students to have that autonomy. And I think one of the reasons, especially for the first and second year teacher, the teachers who quit, is we are so pressured for the test.
Yes.
Yeah. We have so much pressure to squish this huge curriculum, into this small space, especially when you have all the testing days, you have snow days, homecoming week, you have all these things that interfere with your teaching. But again, once you get comfortable, just go past the 2 years. Just tell the new teachers, just make it past 2 years. Once you hit that third year, you have a hallelujah moment, and it's beautiful because you're like, oh, everything I did for 2 years, everything I did in my undergraduate or graduate program makes sense now. I can relax. I don't work as hard at home. Now I'm in my 16th year. I don't bring anything home. I don't. If I can't do it at school, I don't do it. But 10 years ago, that was not me. Everything was coming home. just make it past 2 years. Get to the third year, and it'll all make sense. And I know we're pressured to the test. I know that's our goal. Make it to the test. But if you do these things, the test will just come naturally.
It'll take care of itself.
It really will.
Yeah. I mean, and that's yeah. That's almost like end scene. But yeah. So you kind of talked about, I mean, some of the other things we would talk about. Why was the moment important to you for you and your growth as an educator? We even talk about like what might be an artifact you might point to. What's something, I don't know. I'm curious if you have anything tangible you might point to that would represent that moment.
So I taught 2 brothers and a sister while I was at Fuller, 3 kids. All 3 of them are doctors now. And all 3 of them. And I'm friends with their mom and dad on Facebook. And to this day, they will comment on my post and be like, thank you.
Oh,
thank you. And I'm like, yeah, I did that. No, I didn't do that. That was not me. What are you talking about? But just to contribute on their journey.
Yeah.
And, it makes you feel something, and I was with them in 09, 10, 11. So for them to still want to reach out to me and say, thank you, it really puts it all in perspective.
That's nice.
What you're doing means something.
Right.
And
Guess
it's
who
not
else is a doctor.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And they made my doctor one day. So, it's just awesome to see that come full circle, so that is my tangible thing, to look on Facebook, to see my old students, see how great they're doing, and know that I might have had a tiny, tiny part in that.
That's nice.
That's cool. And then, we like to think too, like, not only is this moment important to you and your development as a teacher, but how is it important to the field? And we point to some the INTAS core teaching standard. INTAS stands for
Interstate Teacher Assessment and Support Consortium.
Fantastic. Is there a standard that kind of lights up when you think about this moment?
Definitely instructional strategies. And I'm not calling out the seasoned teachers, the more experienced teachers, but after you've been teaching for a while, you kind of get complacent. You you're pulling out the same old strategies. But unfortunately, the world is changing, and the world is changing fast. Yeah. Technology is changing. The mindset of these children are changing. So we have to adapt to them. And so our instructional strategies have to change. The strategies I was using when I first started are not the strategies I use now. Yeah. So as educators, you have to be fluid. You have to be willing to change. And the only way to do that is to reach out, go to conferences, read a journal, and talk to your cohort. Your room is your room, but get out of it. Go to another teacher's room, sit in there on your planning period, watch them teach. Go to professional development that means something to you. Don't go because your district is making you. Go to something that you truly care about so you learn and you're not wasting your time. But be willing to change. Be willing to alter your instructional strategies to meet the needs of your students.
Yeah. Yes. I think it sounds like, too, when you had that experience from your moment, it probably came at a time like, okay, I'm past that. I'm things are a little bit, but now I got an extra challenge, and you kind of ramped up, and so then and it also gave you a need to kind of learn and develop as well.
Because once you see, I hate to say it, once you see something your professor says come true, you're like, oh, maybe they were right about all the things they said.
Say that again, Brandon.
Yeah.
Like they said this one thing and it worked. Let me pay attention to the other 10 things they said, and let me try those and hope those work too. So that was definitely that moment for me.
Awesome. And you have a pocket-sized teaching philosophy, so some phrase or statement that you carry with you?
Everybody can.
There you go.
Everybody can do math. Everybody can learn. Everybody can speak Spanish. Everybody can. If you put in the right effort, if you have the right mentor, if you have the right people around you, you can do anything you put your mind to. And I really think I use it a lot in my class when kids walk in, again, with that fixed mindset. I can't do math. I'm only in here because the state of Tennessee tells me I have to take this class. I remind them everybody can. Everybody can do Algebra 2. Everybody can, and you will.
Yeah. Awesome.
I love that. I'm going to challenge my students. We're getting ready to create our pocket-sized philosophies in my foundations class, and I'm going to challenge them. The Tennessee Teacher of the Year has a 2-word pocket-sized philosophy. Can you get that?
Can you beat it?
I love it.
What would the one word be?
Yes.
Yay.
Yeah.
Go.
Yeah. Anything else on like how like your moment and your philosophy come together, or maybe what it's maybe shaping you going forward?
As a math teacher, it really bothers me when you hear the perspective of, I can't do this, or my mom couldn't do it. And I have to remind my kids that it's not in your DNA. When you go give blood at a blood bank and they check your DNA for 23andMe, they don't see a math gene in your blood. There's no, and so it's in your head.
Yeah.
And I think for me, I heard that for so long, for so many years. I heard math isn't for me. And if I could just change that one kid at a time, one teacher at a time, to just math is for everyone. Yeah. Everybody can do math. Then I will feel like I accomplished something.
Nice. Well, and now we're coming to the part where we do a little resource dump and like things that like even and we want to make sure you include you, Brandi, on this. Like things that people could use in order to like take this to the next level. So like resources. So I'm just looking at my bookshelf over there. Mathematical mindsets, like talking about that fixed mindsets from Bowler and Dweck, and like talking about pushing on that. Anything like maybe even sources where you're getting some of your good tasks out there?
There's so many. I still love NCTM, all their journals.
Yeah, the Illuminations too.
Yes.
And the journals. They're having
journals,
complete task journals that have come out recently. Yeah.
And it's a plethora of information. But again, you're thinking, I have to stick to my curriculum. I can't. Those things will fit in your curriculum.
Yeah.
There's a spot. You might have to take time, go over the summer, fall break, spring break, find them. They will fit. You just have to find the space for them and utilize them properly.
Yeah.
I love circuits. Verge Cornelius.
Oh, yeah, Verge Cornelius.
Oh, my goodness. Her circuits. And now they're coming out for Algebra 2, Algebra 1, Geometry. And my kids love them. And so that's a good facilitating day. And I make the kids move while they do their circuits together.
We got to get Verge on the podcast.
This is Verge's last year. She's retiring.
No way.
Yes. Oh, we got to
probably make so much money selling those circuits. Goodness gracious. But I love them. I'm like, it's circuit day and the kids love them.
Oh, yeah.
I highly recommend those for any math teacher. Use those.
I was also going to point out, like, Magdalene Lampert has a book, Teaching with Problems and the Problems of Teaching. I'm looking at it right now. But it really talks about, like, using tasks and having that, even talking about the using pen and not crossing out. That's a great book for especially a beginning teacher. Like, here's things that I'm doing in my class, and here's the reasoning why I'm doing this. And you see her actually struggling with how she's going to set up it's a 5th grade classroom, but it's like getting inside the mind of a master teacher, when it's kind of like, sometimes when you're beginning teaching and you watch a teacher do something, like, why'd they do, like, that's an awesome move. Like, how did they know to do that move? Like seeing, like a full player doing a stiff arm, like, how did they know to do that stiff arm? Like, and just seeing them and getting inside someone's head. Like, I really like that text as well.
But if you don't have time to read, because I know that's what teachers are going to say, is who has time for that? Your resources are in your school.
Right.
They're in your district. They
could be in the room next door.
It could be in the room next door. And they don't have to teach what you teach.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to go to your administrators and say, I am struggling with behavioral management. Who on this campus is great at behavioral management?
Yes.
Reach out. That's what new teachers don't do. They feel like they're an island. No teacher is an island.
Or like weakness, right? Or something like that.
Oh, heaven forbid you admit your weakness.
Right.
Do that.
Guess
to
what?
this
You are
day,
a new teacher.
Time management is my biggest weakness. And I will go to another teacher and say, how did you fit this lesson in? What did you do? Don't ever be afraid to ask your peers for help. Go to your admin and say, I am weak at this. Lead me to the person who will help me. And admin will love the initiative.
Yeah.
Love that you recognize your weakness and are willing to work on it.
And it speaks to that need for community, like you were talking about at the beginning of our discussion. A couple of resources. You all were talking about some math-specific, books for teaching strategies. One, just this idea about going and finding, and it's a book like Doug Lemoff's Teach Like a Champion, where there's little small chapters that are just based on a strategy.
I love that.
Anybody could use, those. And what is the one, Joyful Teaching?
Joyful Learning.
Joyful
Alice
Learning.
Bryce Solner and Paula Kluth. Yeah.
Okay, that's another great example, kind of like Doug Lemoff's book, where it's just little strategies, like, a couple paragraphs describing a strategy, trying something new, being open to, let me give this a try. I've never done this before.
What's it going to hurt?
Yeah, it's not going to hurt anything.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that you mentioned earlier, Brandi, about that that teacher that meant something to you, and I can't remember his name.
Chris Maley.
Yes, said, they should come leave your classroom feeling better than when they came in, and have some fun and be, motivated. And that kids who maybe are getting everything but one problem wrong, but say, hey, look what you did do, and focusing on that. It reminded me of that great TED Talk by Rita Pearson. I can't remember the name.
Like a champion.
No, it's
everyone needs a champion.
Everyone needs a champion. Yeah. It's Rita Pearson.
We'll post a link
we'll post a link to it. Her TED Talk, and she talks about she got these kids, and they were like, well, only got 2 right, and she's like, you got 2 right. Let's celebrate it. And, celebrating the 2 right. It's and then what are you going to do next time? And then you get the 4 right, and celebrate those little baby steps, which you talked about.
Celebrate your
was
learning.
so important.
But you have to create that environment to where that is acceptable.
Yes.
And that comes with day one. where you facilitate an environment to where it's okay to be wrong.
Yes.
It's okay to ask a question that is deemed dumb,
Right.
It's okay to do that. That comes from you as a teacher, though. Set that environment, set that culture of your room to where making it 20% is okay, because we're going to celebrate the little wins.
Right.
And not make fun of you or embarrass you for that.
Yeah. And I think that would be a great something to listen to. Listen to Rita Pearson. Listen to that TED Talk.
Yep.
Thinking about flipping that script that is not like most classrooms, thinking about that. And the kids will walk into your room and know what your expectation is once you set that.
Yeah. From day one?
From day one, yeah.
Sometimes you need a little inspiration juice.
Absolutely. And she's a great person for inspiration.
Well, and one more that I want to mention, I had Ayanna Perry and Fred Dillon on the Ammon on Planet podcast to talk about. It's a nice resource for new teachers. It's like 5 big questions about like teaching secondary math. And it's like it's like questions you might have, and then it's like less than 1,000 words. They're like one page, basically one page. That'd be way less than 1,000 words. Anyway, one page, like something you could digest like in between classes, like to like, and like looking at what would be an answer to this? Like, how do I get my kids to do this? How do I do that? Like, how do I start with tasks? Like, it's just like little things that could be like, it's almost like PD to go. So, all right. That's pretty good.
Fabulous. Love it.
So, thank you. Brandi.
Appreciate y'all inviting me. This was fun.
Yeah. So thank you for sharing a mile marker on your road to better teaching.
And thanks to all of you for joining us. And remember, the road to better teaching goes on forever, and the joy of learning never ends. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe so you don't miss what's next. Rate and review the podcast. It really helps others find these stories, and share it with a colleague or friend who's on their journey in education.
And you can find today's show notes and all the links we mentioned, all those resources, tons of resources, at roadtobetterteaching.com. And finally, a heartfelt thank you to each of you traveling this journey of becoming and growing as an educator. The world is a better place because you are sharing the gifts you've been given to teach others.
And the Road to Better Teaching is an Ammon on Planet production.